So, how does it compare to? Do you feel different now to when you went in?
I feel entirely different. I feel lighter. I feel bigger than my body, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I feel, Kevin, my trainer, called it the soul spa, and so I feel like cleansed and just lighter all over. But I feel bigger than I am. But I feel no tension in my face, which is nice.
You don't look as though you got any tension in your face.
That went like on the second day, I think.
Yeah.
And the loss of time for me, they take away your watches and all clocks and everything. And Pam in our group had such a hard time with that. She kept going, but how long is breakfast? How long's the massage? How long? It took her like a good day to do it. But for me, it was like, I don't want to even know about time. So I lost all sense of time in the second day, really. I had no... And also been in another country, I had no idea what the time was anyway, but on that second day I'd lost total sense of time and just felt like in a squishy bath of love. You're fed, you just hear your cowbell and you just walk towards the cowbell. Ding, ding. We were doing that as well. We go, Kevin Babes and I would go, everybody coming in for the cow. I don't know if anybody heard
coming into graze.
Yeah. You get fed. I went to yoga 3 mornings, but the woman that did it wouldn't stop talking. You'd do maybe one pose and she'd just talk at you the whole time. So we sort of went on strike.
Yoga.
Yeah. So.
Cool. Well, and so do you get it now?
I get the importance of... The question for me changed. So the question before I went is this real? Is this another reality? But that question dropped away and it just became about a personal exploration, in fact. So that question actually became irrelevant because to me it's like, well, why didn't I see this energy around me all the time? It's so blatantly obvious. And it's not another reality, it's part of this reality, but for me it's an internal reality sort of thing. But I can just see it everywhere now. Like everything is, has focus 10. Like I'm clearly not back into reality yet. They put these labels on it, but for me there really wasn't much distinction between this focus 10, 15, 21. It was all part of the same thing. It was just recognising... that there is this otherness to me. That sort of, those numbers became irrelevant. I enjoyed some of the journeys into them. Like I liked visualising the reds, the colours. From, I think it's 15 to 21, you visualise, you're supposed to visualise blue, red, yellow, pink, green and purple. So I visualised walking through rooms and all my clothes would change colour and stuff like that. I found that really satisfying experience all the way up to white. But for me, there wasn't much distinction between the levels in the fact. It didn't become about that. It was just, I just seemed to tap into this otherness every time anyway, which was cool.
So at what point did it start to change?
The very first night, the first night we did a resonant tuning, which is where you just go home as a group, and we sort of, they set up downstairs that we'd do this resonant tuning. We sort of did 3 downstairs as a group. You just go home or make whatever noises, like humming noises. So that night we just did an extended resonant tuning in our little check units, where we're just lying down in our check units, and that night, that was the first my experience. I so wanted to talk to you that that night was my first experience. I felt that I was part of I saw stars to begin with, which was consistent throughout my whole experience. I just saw the black stars, but that night I felt I was part of the stars. I was like, and my eyes watered because I just felt like I was this huge expanse of stars, and that was a consistent experience that I had all the way through it. So, that was, so for me that was just, I was like, I've got to tell someone about this, because I felt like I was just part of the...
That was the feeling I had in that field, was
being
all...
Yes, I felt I was...
Everything, and, just
Yeah.
being all one the same thing.
Yeah, I just felt like it was such a cool feeling. I felt like I was close to the stars, and I was breathing and my eyes were watery. It was so cool. It was very vivid, like, so the stars just solidified. I was just like, I felt close, and then I just felt like the expanse of the universe. It was very cool, and that was just from resonant tuning, like. So that was a really cool night, and I just remember leaping out of my little jet unit. Kira was my flatmate. I was like, Kira, it's only just started and it's so cool. I've already had a cool experience, and that for me that was the telling thing, because that was consistent for me to see the stars like every time I saw them, and I see them everywhere now in everything, which was very cool. Yeah. I sound like a Fruit Loop.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, did you have a sense of the universe? Like the stars? Did you have a starscape?
No, that's your experience.
Isn't that cool? Because I thought, why can't everybody see the stars? Like, I just...
It makes perfect sense. I mean, that we are born from stars.
Yes, that's the sense that I got. And as the journey went on, I went, this is internal. This is my consciousness exists in, like, I found that it was a, this is an internal existence, but it's hard to describe. Well, so it's small but big at the same time, and we're all made up of it, sort of thing. And my consciousness is floating along in this bit at the moment. Yeah.
It makes perfect sense to me. I don't know what everyone else on YouTube's going to think.
Yeah. So it's not about it's not about proving. I think before I came this, it was a very intellectual sort of thing. It was like, okay, and it became nothing about out of body for me. That wasn't relevant. That didn't happen for me in this experience. With lucid dreaming, I have that for me, it sounded like lucid dreaming was this sort of out of body. This experience had nothing to do with lucid dreaming. Nothing to do with out of body for me. It wasn't about separation from this, because I didn't have that. I felt I was just part of everything. Like, my consciousness was just sort of everywhere. So it came not about, I just totally disconnected from the body anyway. There was no, in Focus 10, I definitely feel like my, one way that I feel that I'm in Focus 10 is that I feel my hands are floating above my physical body, but I didn't feel any, a lot of people in the group felt the sensation of flying out of their body, and I never had any of that, and it didn't become about that. It was about the internal consciousness, and how is my consciousness formed. So it's sort of floating on the universe for me.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really took from it is that, in fact, any kind of labels just drop away. You don't need them. It's a non-linear, all at once experience.
That's right. And I think for me, I definitely found that. I found the labels were irrelevant. It was just probably Bob Monroe's way of categorizing it. Whereas for me, it was just like, initially it was just, in the first few days I had very intense visions, like, my first, in fact, and that very first night, so I had that feeling of being just part of the universe, very close to the stars, which was very intense. But my very strong vision that night was a man on the hill. He had his back to me, and then he turned his head towards me, and it was as clear as I was there, that was my very first sort of vision that I had that night. And then the next day I had a vision of a door with two handles, and I had very strong visions to begin with, and then that all dripped away.